Hi, I want to welcome you to another episode of Health and Wellness Reimagined with Mama Vega. On my last episode, I spoke to you about people who have albinism and the discriminations that they face, not only here in the United States, but also in Africa, specifically in Tanzania, and the atrocities that were happening there. One of my guests wanted to return, so I'm following up with her on the discrimination that she faced as a child, even within her own family, as well as the discrimination that she faced in her marriage and how that impacted her mentally and manifested physically to where now what she has to do is she's been going to a doctor in order to get to the root causes of the psychological problems that now is starting to be uncovered so that she can get well physically. Too often, we don't realize that what we say to people in words is not only impacting them mentally, but it will manifest physically. In her case, it's a lot of aches and pains, along with some other things, but she'll tell you what that is. And then to know that she was also faced with many of these issues as a child, including being raped. In her case, raped by family members. How many of you know someone who now has had to face something in their childhood that now has caused them mental illness? But what gets overlooked so often is how the mental issues that they have will manifest physically. We can get into how that happens on another episode, but for right now, I want you to think about that. When a person has a stomach ache or they have certain diseases that actually seems like they just spurred out of nowhere. They didn't spur out of nowhere. It was actually induced by something that happened, because 90% of every disease that you have is going to start with your immune system. And when you do and say certain things to people, it impacts their immune system, including the medications that you're taking. So all of these things do have an impact. What we're going to address here, though, is the mental component of abusing someone and how that can actually manifest physically. We're not going to address all the things that you can do, but I want you to be aware so that now when you are talking to other people, you're more conscious of what you say and the impact that that can have on someone else, because you can't unknow what you know, and you will always be trying to figure something out. So listen up to what she has to share in her life. And maybe you know someone that something similar has happened, and you can perhaps reach out to them and try to give them some comfort by letting them know you care about them. They are human beings. We are all human beings, no matter whether they have albinism or another color, because albinism is another color. So no matter what that is, we can reach out to someone else to try to offer some type of comfort to them. So I implore you, would you mind doing that, just to show a little bit of humanity to someone else who may be suffering? You never know how you can save someone's life as well. This is Charmaine Vega, also known as Mama Vega. Please watch. Thank you. Well, I want to welcome everybody back again to Health and Wellness Reimagined. You know, you always think about health and wellness, just the food. I don't think of it as food, but I also want to think about the mental things that people can do to you, for you, what they say You always heard the little nursery rhyme, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never harm me. That's right. They can't harm you. They can kill you. Because what it does, it can create stress, the mental illness that you go through. You're trying to process it in your mind. And what I do to tell people now is that if they have all these things that's going on them in their minds and it's gonna like impact my mind, I tell them you can't unknow what you know. So I don't want to know. You're not going to screw with my head just because it's your problem. If it's your problem, let it stay over there. I've got enough to deal with on my own. But my guest today is actually Belinda. She's all the way from Kenya. And my other guest is Demetria. And you can see she has albinism. She's a person with albinism. And today's stories are going to be about love. What is it that albinism or people who have albinism, how do they go about love? Because they already face discrimination. In her case, I know her story. She's a personal friend. So she's faced discrimination because of her color or the color of her skin. And black people have told her, you're white. White people look at her like there's something wrong with you and that mentally you're not there or there's something wrong with you. But I know her story or stories because she's given me so many stories about what has gone on in her life. So today I want Demetria to tell us about her experience in love. Don't you want to know that? Don't you want to know how do they deal with love? Because we all look at color and it's like, oh, I'm attracted to this one, I'm attracted to that one. But when you look at a person with albinism, they think that maybe I'm going to catch what they have, like it's a disease I can catch. Maybe it's something else, but I want to ask her, Demetria, how do you deal with love? But I know you were married, so I
Hmm.
want that story because that one is a real juicy story. That's the one I want. I want that. I want the juicy one. Belinda's already laughing because she doesn't know. I know the story.
We want the juice. We want the juice.
Well, growing, I never dated, and my ex-husband was the first man that I ever met and married, and I was 19 years old when I started dating because nobody would date me. Even in my teen years, I didn't date. And when I met him, he seemed to accept me, and up until that point, black men wouldn't even look my way. And so I think with that, I'm too, how do they put it? I'm too white to be black and too black to be white. So you can't win for losing. So my children's father is white. And I guess because I got the pale skin and the blonde hair, he figured that I was white like him. And so we got married, had 4 children, and it turned into an abusive situation. And when I left him, he yeah, I'm in. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, so I'm in. So when I left him, he decided that when my oldest daughter was dating black men, he seemed to be surprised about that. And so he yelled at me and asked me who told our daughter she could only date black men. And at that point is when I realized he didn't know I was black. He thought I was white. And so that didn't go over too well with him. So, I guess having albinism, it could fool people. They can't get past the pale skin and the blonde hair. So I just wish that I was a fly on the wall. So oh, I think that this is the reason why we need to increase the awareness of albinism because it and his whole family rejected me at that point. So, ignorance, it's not so bliss, isn't it?
That's very true. Um, Also, that's kind of the thing where a person didn't even look at who you were or ask you or even find out about your family or anything that
Oh
was
no. The kicker is he met my parents. And my parents are chocolate. They're darker than you. And I guess he just assumed, I don't know what was going on in his head, that her parents are black, but she's this color. He just assumed that I was white, which is hilarious. And then some of my friends from the albinism community, the one gentleman, he says, well, I'm gonna get me a white woman and I'm not gonna tell her that I'm black until the babies are born. He's such a comedian. So and even now, black men don't even look my way still. Because some of them assume that I'm white or I'm mixed, or sometimes they don't know what to make of me. And so that's why I decided, I wouldn't put myself out there actively dating for that reason. And a lot of people in the albinism community don't date and they don't get married. I've had a close friend, her family forbidded her to get married because in some cultures, um, people feel that people with albinism shouldn't be allowed to date or marry or have children. And that's so unfortunate because we make decent parents too. And, even when I was having my children, I've had obstetricians ask me, do you think you ought to be the parent of any children? And I said, well, what is that supposed to mean? He says, people like you. I said, what you mean, people like me? So a lot of people have their firm beliefs that we don't have a right to marry, we don't have a right to have families and be a part of society.
Do you have any idea why they may have that? Have you received any indication from anyone as to why they may have that perception or misperception? Do you have any idea what makes them say that?
Well, we're not seen as human beings. That's what I gather. We're not seen as human beings. We're not a valued person that's a part of society. So they don't look at us as being one of them, which is unfortunate.
Wow. Belinda, I know you want to key in on this because I can see your face. And so I do want you to give some perspective on this as well because you're in Kenya and I know you've come across some of those type of things there. So can you, if you have any questions for her, by all means, go ahead. But also shed your perspective because you always have a similar perspective as mine, but you always have a different way of wording it. So I would like your perspective and your wording.
Okay. Hi, Dimitri.
Hi.
Um, and you are a good grandparent. I can see you're soothing your baby. So I wonder why in the world people would think that people with albinism cannot make good parents. And we can
Exactly.
see right now, we are seeing that you're a good grandparent. You are on
Thank
Zoom,
you.
multitasking at the same time soothing your baby, your grandbaby. I don't know whether he's sleeping or he's from eating, but
Is
that
she
is a sign
sleeping?
of good parenthood or, just taking care of children. And then the reason as to why, this is my own thought and my opinion. Your ex-husband met your parents,
Hmm.
and your parents are black. You said they are darker than me. I
Yep.
assume. Yes, and he thought that you are white. Just a maybe. Maybe he thought that these were your foster parents. Because two black
Exactly.
men, two black, people cannot give birth to a white person. So I'm just trying
Exactly.
to understand what was going on in his head.
Yeah.
But it's his loss because he lost such a beautiful lady with a wonderful personality. And if he went for another white lady, simply because he realized that you are not his type of race or the race that he prefers, then that was not generally a good person. That was a racist.
Exactly.
Yes, the moment that he started questioning why your daughter is dating just black men, then it means that he looks at himself as a superior race. And there's no superiority. We are all the same, whether you're dark, whether you're white, whether you're chocolate,
Exactly.
whether you're yellow, whichever complexion you are, we are all the same in God's eyes. God created us equally. So
Yep.
there is no pigmentation of the skin that should make you feel like a boss over the other pigments. And that
Exactly.
the racism has even trickled down here in Africa. Let me tell you the truth. It's not only with people with albinism or only in the States, but that Western culture and Western mentality has
Yeah.
has made some of us who are not as light as Mama Vega to be treated differently. We cannot even get a space in the mainstream media. That was a while ago. The ideal woman or the ideal female was supposed to be fair in complexion, very fair, that is light in complexion. And it also exceeded by even going to the finer details of the body type. You're supposed to be slim and tall so that you look like a model for you to anchor in the news stations. So I don't know whether you're anchoring with your body. Is it your height that is going to speak, or it's your voice? or the complexion? So these are some of the challenges that you are going to hear in Africa. So it's a high time that, we stopped this nonsense. I call it nonsense. Because so many women are getting skin diseases because they are bleaching or lightening up their skins. And they're using methods or creams that locally, manufactured, things that have not even been authorized. The next moment you meet someone who has been dark like me, all of a sudden I look like Demetria, and you wonder what happened overnight. And it is Demetria, you are on mute. I don't know what's wrong, but your mic is on mute.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So
Yeah,
these are
I
things
wish
that we should
Colin was here
normalize talking about.
because I'm curious about dating for him in Africa, in Kenya.
Yeah, for Collins, I know a little bit of Collins' story, the part that he told me. The first marriage, he got married to a Ugandan, not a Kenyan. Then
Oh, okay.
he was rejected by the family of the woman. Yes.
Oh,
And they had two kids, they had two children. So after the family of the woman had rejected, or the wife had rejected him, eventually the wife also rejected him because of albinism. But Collins, being Collins, decided to take custody of the children. So he stays with his children. Then he
Oh.
went to a second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
This also didn't work. Um, the lady came with two children, and Collins had two children. He even did a process whereby he initiated the children's name, the adopted children from this second marriage, their names to be changed to his second name, Obajo, his surname. All this was done, but then it reached a point where the lady, I think, was tired. I don't know what happened. Then the lady decided to take off and left Collins with the four children.
Oh my
But
goodness.
the husband from the previous marriage came for the children that Collins had already, sorted out. Collins was paying their school fees. Collins was doing everything for about 4 to 6 years, I think. So Collins remained again with his two children. So right now he's decided that he's not in a rush to get married.
Exactly.
He's taking his time because he's young, he's 35. He's taking his time and he's looking for someone who will love him the way he is. But in terms of
Exactly.
relationships, he's really, really gone through discrimination because of his condition. But I
Exactly.
think that's unfair from my own point of view because he's such a, I don't want to use the word sweet, but he's such a sweet soul.
Oh, and
Let's
it's so
submit God
unfortunate.
said. Yes, he's such a sweet soul. He's someone who champions and rallies for people with disabilities, and he's smart upstairs. So I don't know what women look for. I don't know whether
It-
if complexion can pay your bills. I don't know.
And I often wondered if people with disabilities, when they get married to somebody that's not disabled, I feel like the power is unequal in that situation because if, like, in the face of conflict, they use that against you, the ones that's not
Mhm.
doing the right thing. Because
Mhm.
I was told, well, nobody's gonna want you. Look at
Mhm.
you. Look at how you look. And it's sad that it's like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
That's
What I want
very
to do
sad.
right here and inject something is that anyone who's watching this and doesn't know who Collins is, they can go back and look at the previous video that we did when we did the first one on albinism, and then you'll see who he is. And like she said, he's 35 years old. He's available, but he's not looking for a rush. He's got two kids. So we want to make sure we put that out there since we are talking about love relationships and stuff with people with albinism as well as the discrimination. So it's not just the love that they face, but it's also the discrimination that they face. And oftentimes it's discrimination even in their own family. So they may grow up not receiving love and getting that, even though they desperately want to be accepted for who they are. Not, they're
exactly.
not trying to do anything different. Just this is who I am, and they're very intelligent, just like anybody else. And I use the word they are, but I'm not trying to separate them because we're all human beings. But it's trying to bring awareness to this particular group of human beings is not looking at, many people don't look at them as being human. They look at them as being subhuman and probably to some extent having more rights than, less rights, I should say, than even an animal. In many instances,
Yep.
if you look at some of the laws and stuff, they have less rights than animals.
Yeah, animals get treated better than us in some respects.
Let me just ask a naughty question, Dimitria.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for my naughty question?
Let me say that again.
I would like to ask a naughty question. Naughty. Naughty.
She wants to ask you a bad question.
Oh, okay.
She said naughty. She always goes there. She always somehow has to go to the naughty question. She always going to go there. People, when they get used to watching us, they'll know she's going to have to go there and say something about somebody or something. So, but go ahead, Belinda. Go ahead and ask your naughty question.
Um, if you now that you've dated people who know that you have albinism, does it affect your bedroom affairs?
Wait a minute, I couldn't understand what you said. I'm so sorry.
I'll reword it for
Okay.
you. She wants to say, how does that translate into the bedroom?
Oh, okay. Um, well, some people, they just figure, oh, she's albino. She's gonna take my BS and let me do whatever I want with her, something like that. And and I have to, and that's why I, just stay to myself because I'm like, no, you're not gonna mistreat me and then want to have sex with me too. It's not gonna work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't look down on me and figure, oh, well, I could have my way with her, do whatever. She's going to put up with me because nobody wants her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the message I get sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I just don't deal with people who call themselves quote unquote normal. Because, it was a norm, most of the normal guys figure, oh, well, I could take advantage of her.
Demetria, do you think that attitude that you have relative to that goes back to your childhood? Because remember, I know your story. So
Yeah.
do you think that that may go back to your childhood with various things that happened to you then and some of
Oh,
the
yeah.
things that you faced in your family as well as, in your neighborhood or community? You want to I'll let you tell it. I won't say
Oh,
what it is, but you want to go
yes.
ahead and address that?
Oh, yes. I'm a adult survivor of childhood sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And most of the abuse took place because not to make excuses for the men in my mother's life, but they assumed that I was white. So they mistreated me thinking that they were getting back at white people. And I don't know what made it appealing for them to want to have sex with me as a kid. And they they tried to recreate like the slavery conditions in our home, making me out to be the one that have to do everything for everybody. I wasn't allowed to share a meal with the family. I wasn't allowed to sit at the table. I was pretty much ostracized in my own house. And and whenever my mother would cook and her boyfriend and my siblings would eat, and then a few hours later, the boyfriend talking about, I'm still hungry. And he would tell me to go make him a hamburger. You know what I did? Everything under the kitchen sink went in that hamburger. I tried to poison the man. And, I was the only one in the household, mind you, they're putting me down, saying I'm not intelligent, I can't do this and I can't do that, or I'm retarded. I was the only one that was able to read and write in my household. And
Mm-hmm.
at the age of 9 years old, I was doing paperwork for my mother to enroll us in school. The paperwork for her to get public assistance, I had to do it. And I'm 9 years old. But mind you, they're telling me I'm stupid. I'm not smart. And when I was identified as gifted in school, that's when the abuse escalated towards me because they felt threatened by the fact that I did well in school. And I was always like a couple of years ahead of my peers in school. And I had to tell my school, please don't say good things about me to my parents because they don't appreciate that. I get straight A's. I get a beating for getting straight A's. Who gets the beat down for getting good grades? It was very confusing for me as a kid. And I thought that, doing well in school, behaving, it would impress my family, but it didn't. It just made them act even uglier towards me. And to this day, I don't have strong ties with my family. And I'm trying to do, I'm also wanting to write about my life and trying to understand it and process it. And so I can move on because I have a lot of trauma that I haven't even dealt with. I was brutally attacked by two girls in my neighborhood because I don't have brown skin. They broke both of my jaws, and I got screws in both of my jaws to this day from that. And I suffer from post-traumatic stress. So that's and I'm trying to understand why the United States is not addressing the abuse that the people with albinism here go through. And because they did pass a bill to end cruelty towards people with albinism in Africa, but they didn't do it here. And so for me, that's contradictory for them to do that because there's no protections for the people with albinism here. And even me being bullied on the job, well, the volunteer job, I haven't never been employed because of being albino. But I'm good enough to be a volunteer.
I do want to segue into something else that you said. You always know I'm going to go back to the health and nutrition component. You always,
Yep.
you always know I have to go back there. So segue back, okay. Um, and what I want to talk about is you have a lot of physical things that have gone on that the regular doctors didn't address, didn't see where it was necessary, but you are seeing a doctor, Dr. Olson,
Okay.
who has addressed many of your things and talked about that some of the things that's taken her a long time to correct and get on the right path goes back to built up memories from your childhood that now has manifested itself as diseases or illnesses in your body. So what I
Yeah.
want to show is that how many of the things that you experience mentally and physically impacts your health, not only at that point, but it transcends to later on in life. But it can be corrected if you do certain things. So you want to talk about some of the things that Dr. Olson has done to help you address those things and reverse some of the illnesses that you've had?
Yes. Um, I had some, I'm dealing with injuries from childhood, and I've had scoliosis, and I have chronic kidney disease, and I've been working with Dr. Olson since 2017, and she resolved the scoliosis. She's helping me with some new medical problems that I'm having, and we're getting my blood pressure under control. The kidney function is almost back to normal. And I'm off of the 21 pharmaceuticals that I was on. And the only thing I take in the morning is my Life Advantage, my collagen, and I do a liver cleanse because I have my son bought me herbs to take. And so I'm slowly getting on the mend. And Dr. Olson is also recommending that I do what do you call it? Um, where you get rid of trapped emotions. And she taught me that the respiratory problems I've been having, when you have respiratory problems, it's usually from grief and loss. And I never understood that until she really brought that to my attention. And now that I'm dealing with the grief and the loss, the respiratory problems are getting better. And I'm not, well, I do keep my asthma medicines handy, but I'm mostly dealing with the emotional stuff that's causing the breathing problems.
It's very good. And you talked about all the medicines that you were taking, and I want to once again address that because people don't realize that when you're taking a lot of those medications, what it's doing, it's impacting your gut, and your gut
Mhm.
is your immune system. So now you have a compromised immune system. So you're taking medications thinking these are going to make you better, but what it's actually doing is it's messing up your gut microbiome. Now your gut microbiome is messed up. So that's messed up, and now it impacts your immune system. So it's kind of like you're in this tumbling, you're just tumbling down, 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 and you think I'm doing something to get better. Even antibiotics, and antibiotics, there's some doctors that have talked about that recently, that antibiotics stay in your system 3 to 5 years after you've stopped taking them, but that
Oh,
also messes up your gut microbiome because when you're taking an antibiotic to kill certain viruses or bacterias or whatever may be going on in your system, it doesn't
mhm.
know the difference between a good one and a bad one. So it just says, you know what, I'm just going to eradicate everything. So now
Yeah,
everything is destroyed.
exactly.
And I want to say Dr. Olson was very interesting is we refer to her as Dr. Olson, which she is, but she's a chiropractor. And so she's
Yep,
been able to make various adjustments in the body in order to get the blood flowing because if you have something in your spine that's off, what that does is that restricts the blood flow and the vessels are not doing what they need to do, which is
yep.
impacting the blood flow to your brain, to your organs, to your heart, all these other
Hmm.
things. And that's what people don't realize is when you're dealing with those things, you have to make sure everything is aligned. That's where self-care comes in, maybe going and get a massage, even if it's once a month. Because when you go get a
Exactly.
massage, it's like helping the lymph, glands that you have and getting that blood to flow and the circulation. Getting up in the morning and going
Hmm.
for a walk. I'm one to say it's really been cold here. Cold for California, okay? Anybody who's listening to this, cold for California, okay? Because I know the rest of the world is going to say, well, it's not cold. It's not cold there. Yes, it is. This morning when I
Yep.
got up, it was 38 degrees here. So that's cold to me. That's cold. I don't care where you are. That's cold. Okay. So I haven't been going out, but that doesn't stop you from walking. You can walk around your house. You can get up and stand.
Yep.
There's different things you can do even in the home. So I haven't been walking out like I normally would be, but I've had to make myself do it. And I bought myself a little trampoline, so it's called a rebounder. So I bought one of those so that at least I can jog in place or something like that and be on a rebounder. So there's things you can do, but it's important to know that if you're taking these other things, that there's ways that you can detox your system in order to get those things out of your system. And that's one of the things why I work with a number of different doctors and call them in for consultations to show what are some
Hmm.
alternatives that you can do. And that's not to say that doctors, the regular Western doctors, don't have their place. If you have a broken arm, you have all these other
Yep.
things that they need to do. If you need to have major surgery, yes. But there are also things you can do naturally
Hmm.
yourself. And that's why I say when people ask me, do you have health insurance or do you have a health plan? I said, yes, natural products is what I use. And that's my health insurance, my health plan in order to give me a health span. Because when you do
Hmm.
these things that are alternative, which is really not alternative, I don't know why they call it alternative. It's just what you should be doing. It's the base of what you should be doing. Other parts of the world, that's the norm, and we call it an alternative. Why don't we call Western medicine the alternative
Alternative.
and the other medicines and everything what the norm, what we should be doing? And that's another whole story if we can go into which one was originally the original medical practices until people decided that they weren't making enough money, and then they made it illegal back in like the 20s, 1920s, in order to say this is illegal for them to be doing this. And then they said, no, those are quacks. They're quacks. This is really wrong. Well, if that was so wrong, then why are you finding all of these things written on scrolls, and you find it written in the Bible that they were doing these things? You find it, written on the tombs in Egypt, and you have all these things that were previously written in things that go back thousands of years, where they were using alternative medicine, as what we call it today. So I would rather not call it alternative. Let us start calling this the norm, and calling the Western medicine the alternative. Why do you call
Mhm.
even the diet that they do in Western part of the United States, or Western world, here in the Western world, not just in the United States, but they call it SAD, okay? The standard American diet, okay? That is
Yep.
kind of sad. That is a sad diet, you know. They call it the standard American diet, you know. I'm probably going to get in trouble from somebody for what it is that I'm saying, but it's the truth. Go look it up.
Exactly. It's called sad.
Okay, Belinda, you're rubbing your head. Okay, what did I do?
Sad. Standard American diet.
And what's the first word in diet? Die.
You guys are crazy.
I like to call it a food plan.
Yeah, and that's
Call it a
that's
food plan.
yes, and that's why I tell people I don't really believe in diets. I believe it's a lifestyle and decision. When people say, "Oh, I can't lose weight," or "It's too hard," no, what it is that you have to change your mindset. You have to make a
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
decision. Everything you do in life is a decision. I decided to get up and brush my teeth. If you didn't brush your teeth, you decided not to brush your teeth. If you have to go to the bathroom and you get up to go to the bathroom, you decided, I don't want to urinate in my bed. I would rather go to the toilet. So these are all
Yep.
decisions that you make. You made a decision. So when
Hmm.
you are, and I know that there are exceptions to what I'm getting ready to say. If you're overweight or something, I do realize that sometimes there's illnesses or things that may be causing that. But also, along with some of those illnesses and some of the things that you're doing and eating, which we can get into another whole story. Belinda and I have talked about doing some of these other stories, but it's
Yeah.
because you're eating foods, excuse me, that have a lot of preservatives in them. So you're screwing with your brain because you've got chemicals on the brain. There's ways and
Hmm.
things that you can do to get rid of it. Are you drinking enough water? Not water with a lot of chemicals. You can tell my voice is getting hoarse because I need to take a swallow of some water here. But the thing is that there are things you can do by drinking enough water to flush your system. It's like water is like hosing down your house or cleaning your house, your body. If you look at your body
Hmm.
as a temple or your body as a house, and it needs to be washed. Okay, it needs to be washed just like the outside, you need the inside washed. So what you do is you
Yep.
drink some water to flush it out. Okay, it swirls around, you wash it out. You can do a little bit of lemon water with it so that now it's going to help it
Alkaline.
alkaline, to help alkaline. You can do a little bit of vinegar in the water.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If you do a little bit of vinegar and baking soda, that's a formula I can give you. What you can do is that'll detox.
Which type
That'll
of vinegar? Not just white vinegar.
Yes, that's right. Apple cider vinegar. That's true, right? It's the apple cider vinegar with baking soda. And here's that formula. You take 6 to 8 ounces of water, 2 tablespoons of, well, you're going to do the baking soda first. 1 tablespoon of baking soda, dissolve that in. Once it dissolves, then you're going to
The
take
eight
two
ounces of water.
tablespoons of either lemon juice or apple cider vinegar. But make sure you put it in a tall glass because that's going to create a volcano eruption. It's going to blow
Oh.
way up. When it subsides, you're going to drink it. But here's the kicker. Make sure you stay at home because it's going to send you to the bathroom. It's kind of like rotor. You won't know when it's going to hit, and when it hits, you have no control. Trust me,
Oh,
this is warning. If you ever watched Lost in Space where it says, "Warning, Will Robinson," well, that's what I'm telling you. This is my warning to you. Don't leave home unless you put on some Depends or something else, and even then it may explode. Depending on how much stuff you have in you, that's what's going to happen. So you need to
oh
make sure.
wow.
Yes, okay? Make
That
sure.
would be interesting.
How many
I'm
days?
gonna do that.
It will happen that day. It will actually take place that day. And if for
And
some
how
reason
many
it seems
days
like,
should you take the solution?
oh, you can, once you do it, you don't need to do it again. But if you decide, I have some clients who take it once a day because they may be impacted. I have other people who will do it once a week. Some people will do it every 2 weeks. Some people will do it once a month. It depends on your body and your system, what you're going to do when you feel that you need to do it. And sometimes, I feel bloated and I need to get rid of some stuff. So that's when you want to do it as well. But it will help to balance your system.
So 8 ounces of water, tablespoon of baking soda, and a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar.
2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar.
Oh, two. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And then you take that and it's like, the flow will happen.
Wow.
It will definitely happen. That flow will happen. So,
So if you're running the 50-yard dash and you feel some splash,
yes, but I want to definitely thank both of my guests for being here. I'm sorry that Ambajo couldn't join us, but we'll end up getting him back again. And I know that that's probably because he had a lot to do at work, and it is nighttime where Ambajo and Belinda are. So I know that that could be something he got held up, but that's okay. So I do appreciate both of my guests, and I will be having them on again because I love them as guests. And this is a topic that is very dear to me just because I didn't realize so much of that discrimination was going on. I had literally no idea. I did not know. And I feel that awareness needs to be brought to it because we need to stop judging people by their abilities and disabilities, as well as judging people by the color of their skin, the length of their hair, whether it's straight or curly or this or that, all these other things, color
yeah,
of their eyes, we're all human beings. That's what we really all are, and we need to be not even judging people, so I don't want to say that. I want to say we just need to just accept everybody. That's it.
exactly.
Because if you get sick and you go to the hospital and you're dying and you need a blood transfusion, trust me, you're not going to worry about what color the person was on the outside. And you won't even know because when they give you that blood transfusion, you have no clue as to who it really came from unless you're actually asking somebody specifically to give that transfusion to you. So just stop
Exactly.
it. It's nonsense. It's really utterly nonsense. You just need to let it go. It's not important. Okay? But again, Belinda, I've got 2 minutes. You want to give us a 2-minute close on something?
Yes, I just want to urge our viewers that they should stay tuned to Health and Wellness Reimagined. And you'll be seeing more of me, you'll be seeing more of Demetria, you'll be seeing more of Collins, because Mama Vega is the host, but we will be coming back because we have lots and lots of topics to talk about. And I want to leave you with this. We are born looking like our parents, but we die looking like our decisions. Choose to stay healthy.
Thank you for that. And I have 1 more minute. And would you like to say anything in closing, Demetria?
Well, I want to thank you, Mama Vega, for making this platform available for us. And I really appreciate it. And Cleo appreciates it too.
Well, thank you both for that. And our minute is up. Thanks, both of you.